Hey everyone, it's Karen, and on today's podcast, I have an author, Dani. So, Dani, let's start diving into some questions about your writings.
Sounds good.
I actually found Dani through Instagram, as I find a lot of my people that I've interviewed is through Instagram. I just like to try to find all types of talents of everywhere, all over the world. Um, that way we can kind of shine the light on everybody. So I chose Dani today for our podcast interview. Like I said, let's get right into all these questions and hear what she has to say. So the first question I have is, how do you find or make time to write?
Hi, Karen. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I appreciate it. Finding time to write, I try to squeeze it in whenever I can. Generally, I will try to do at least an hour after work. That's the easiest time for me. I'm already in the zone. So I will shut down that laptop and open up mine and start writing. It also depends on the projects that I'm working on. If I am working on a first draft, I'll tend to write most days on it. Same with editing, but right now I'm on a break. I've got my last novel with my editor, so I'm taking a bit of a break from writing. So I haven't been writing every day. A couple days a week, I've been working on some short stories, just because I enjoy it. But yeah, I squeeze it in whenever I can. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, I feel like that's all we really can do with our favorite hobbies and stuff with day-to-day life. And I understand that. So,
Yeah, of course, with a full-time job, yeah, you gotta get it in
yeah.
whenever you can. So,
Yeah. Yeah, but at least you can get it in. You do make time for it because you're following your dream and your passion. So that's
yeah,
all that really matters is being able to you physically making time for everybody and your everybody like you work with your stories and stuff like that. So
no, I agree, and I feel better if I've written. I notice at the end of the day, I feel a little bit better, even if I took 5 or 10 minutes to do it. It's like at least I did it. So,
yes,
yeah.
yeah, I know. I know for
And
me because
sometimes it is only 5 minutes. I will literally sit down and be like, I'm going to write one sentence. And if I just write one sentence, then sometimes that's all it is. But at least I did it. So,
hey, 5 minutes is 5 minutes. That's all that matters. Like you said, you get it in where you can. Because I know I do that when I'm at work too. Admin for the state, so it's kind of hard always doing everything for them, and I understand that. So,
yeah.
next question is, what are some of your favorite books or authors that have influenced your writings?
Oh gosh, so many. I've been an avid reader since I was a kid. My parents both read to me, and to my sister as well, pretty much every night. My mom started reading me horror books when I was very small. She read me the Amityville Horror when I was like 8.
Oh,
So that
wow,
started
that
me on
was
my,
young.
yeah, a little young for that. So that started me on my horror obsession pretty early. I picked up Stephen King not long after that. I
Mhm.
think my first book that I read that I really remember was Pet Cemetery. And I just remember
Nice.
being like, 10 or 11, like curled up in a ball in an easy chair, just like reading this thing. And that's what really just made me think, this is cool. I want to do this. So yeah, Stephen King has been a big one. Alice Hoffman is a huge one for me. Remember discovering her in the library. I read Practical Magic. I went right back to the library and got every single book they had of hers on the shelf. I was like walking with this armload of books. So I just love her. Anne Rice is a big one, of course.
Mhm.
Read all the Vampire Lestat novels when I was young and love those. William Gibson really is a big influence on my science fiction writing. He's got some really
Mhm.
great classics. Neuromancer and Mona Lisa Overdrive were two of my favorites growing up. And now I'm reading a lot of more science fiction. Robert Charles Wilson is a great writer. My dad and I used to read books by him. His book Spin was one of the last ones we read together. My dad passed away in 2015. So we would read these books and then discuss them. And that was one of the last ones that we read together. So that one has a special place in my heart. There's been a sequel since, and that was kind of bittersweet to read that. After my dad had passed, it was,
Mhm.
um, you know, interesting to read that. Who else? Peter Watts. I would say my favorite book of all time is called Blindside. It's by Peter Watts, and it's a hard science fiction, but it's also mixed with horror and action adventure. It's just a blend of everything. I've probably read it 6 or 7 times.
Nice.
Thinking about reading it again this summer, but I feel kind of bad because my TBR list is to the moon. So I kind of feel bad picking up one that I've read 6 times already, but I may do it anyway. That's what you'd call my guilty pleasure is reading books I've already read.
Yes.
So, um, let's see. And there's one other horror book I want to mention that people might not know about. A guy named Jeff Long wrote a book called The Descent, and it's one of the best horror novels I've ever read. So for any horror fans out there, pick that one up. He's actually a writer. He writes about climbing and caving. And so
Oh.
he's really more in the nonfiction genre, I think. But this book is a fiction about caving, and they go deep enough that they find hell. It's
Oh.
really like the scariest book I've ever read, and it's such a great pleasure too to read it. It's a really good, scary, intellectual book. So that was the last one I really
Good.
wanted to mention. So yeah, I have a lot of authors that I read and enjoy.
I was gonna say because you've listed off a few of them that I've never really heard of, and then when you would talk about the book, I'm like, oh, because I'm a horror person too. I love Stephen
Yeah,
King. Stephen
yeah.
King's my man. Like I have a whole
I
exactly
say he
because
taught me how to write. I mean, he taught
right.
his book on writing is like a must for people to read. So yeah, I
Yes.
love Stephen.
We're just thankful for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, like I said, I brought up that because there's a lot of, even though I have read since I was a child too, there's so many authors out there that I've never even heard of, all because I'm so like into like, for me, I'm so kind of stuck in like the teenage section, like vampires and werewolves, kind of high school love.
Sure,
But
yeah. Those are
obviously,
classics.
right. So, but that's why I like bringing on other writers and authors to my channel and stuff because that way I get to learn some new authors for me to learn about and read and stuff like that. So that maybe I can kind of expand my little hole or my little circle over here more. So
Yeah, absolutely. So many great book recommendations from Instagram and from all the other users and
oh
authors that
yeah,
I've met. And oh my gosh, like I said, my TBR list is ridiculous right now. I will be
right,
long dead before I ever read all that stuff. But hey, I'll
yeah,
try. Give it
right.
my best.
That I always said when I was little, I wanted to be able to read every single book on the entire planet because
That's so sweet. Yeah.
I love books and well because I grew up watching Beauty and the Beast too.
Hmm.
So the Beauty obviously she had a library full of books like
That's my dream. Library.
mine too. So, all
Yeah.
right. The next question we have is why did you choose to self-publish instead of pursuing traditional publishing?
That's a really good question. I am still will likely pursue traditional publishing in the future. Each book I write, I do query out, and go through the process. Going through the process the first time with the book, my very first book is called The Book of the People, and it's about 100,000 words on the zombie apocalypse. That one
Oh,
never got published, and I never self-published it, but I learned a lot during the query process.
right.
So my second, and that's they told me that the zombie apocalypse thing was over, that nobody wanted that anymore. So I thought, okay, I'll write another book, no
Yeah,
zombies. And
right.
so I wrote North Woods, which is about a climate apocalypse, about kind of a sudden ice age that happens in two women that meet and survive through this apocalypse. And then when I queried that out, they said, no, no, the whole apocalypse thing is over. It's a great book, but nobody wants to read the apocalypse anymore. And so I thought, I got a lot of really positive feedback on it. I'm going to publish this myself. And so
Yeah.
that's what really led me to it. I thought, why not try to do it myself? I think the whole self-publishing industry has changed so much, even in the past 10 years. It
Yeah.
used to be really looked down on if you were to self-publish. It was kind of like, well, clearly you're not good enough. I think that's
Hmm.
really changed now. I think that there are so many gems that I've read by indie authors, first of all.
Hmm.
there are lots of indie authors that do self-publish and then they get picked up later, by an
Right.
agent or by a publishing house. So I think it's just a great way, a new avenue for people to go if they really love what they're doing
Hmm.
and they want to write and they want to get it out there. I think it's just a really good option to have. And then the other small reason was that people were constantly asking me, where can I read your stuff? And it was like, well, maybe never because
Right.
I'd have to land an agent, and then the agent would actually have to get the book deal, and then 2, 3 years later, if nobody quits on the publishing side and the bosses are still there, you might see it. So I thought, well, this is a good place at least that I can point people in that direction.
Yes.
Like, then I can have it in my hands, and people will have a place to access my work. And it's really worked out well. I've met a lot of people on Instagram and through some other platforms, and it's selling modestly, but it sells regularly, and it's just really cool to have
Yeah.
people that I don't know reading my books, you know?
Right.
So,
Right. I actually
yeah.
plan on trying to, because I just saw that you posted it and I shared it on my story. I'm actually going to try to get that book for sure from you.
Oh, thank
So
you.
as soon as
Yeah.
possible, of course, as soon
Yeah.
as possible,
Yeah.
because like I said, I want to be able to support everybody. Plus, I want to read. I want to read. I want to be a published author one day. That's my dream. That's literally
Yeah.
when I was in kindergarten. I have no siblings. I have really no friends. I was an out of I didn't live in that city. We were out of towners, kind of. Even though my dad, he used to live there, so they knew him, but not me. But I didn't have nobody, so books were my friend. And I asked my kindergarten teacher, I said, can I write like this of what I read? And she smiled because I was in the library. I remember this so vividly. It's great. We were in the library and she holding up this book. I don't remember the book, but she was like, "Yes, Karen." She put her hand on my shoulder and she's like, "Yes, Karen. That's why you're in school. You're in school to be a writer." And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. It's like, because she just could tell that since I love reading so much and write English was my next favorite thing or course, I love writing and everybody's always loved it. So that's why, again, I wanted to bring some more indie authors and publishers and stuff like that all onto my channel, like you, because it helps me learn what I need to do, but also everybody else what they need to do. So I
Yeah.
also, but,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually thinking about putting out a little PDF of like how to publish on Kindle because it's such a learning curve. I mean, it's like we were talking
mhm,
about when we were setting up the meeting. It's like, I'm going to
right.
do this one thing. Well, there are 60 other things you have to do before you have to do this one thing. And so it's was a real learning curve. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll put out a little PDF of some easy steps that other authors can follow who want to go this route.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Please do that because I
Yeah.
need help. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I will.
So the next one was what has been the most challenging aspect of being an indie author?
Definitely the marketing. Like I'm a pretty shy person.
Yeah.
Would consider myself fairly introverted, so putting myself out there, as they say, being on Instagram, I was really not wanting to do the social media thing at all. But
Mhm.
then going to different author retreats and things like that, they would say, you absolutely must do this. And so I dove in a couple years ago. And then when I went to a conference last year, they were saying to all the authors in the room, you must do this. And everybody was just groaning. I was like, I'm so glad I'm already doing it, so
Yeah.
so yeah, the marketing, just trying to like put it out there like buy my book, buy my book. That's not really a natural state for me to be out there trying to, especially with the world and the state that it's in. It's like so much crazy stuff happening. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
buy my book. The world's
Right.
on fire. Just buy
Right.
your book. It's cool. Like, forget
Right.
about it for a minute. So
Right.
yeah,
World's
so
on
that's kind
fire.
of my yeah. Yeah, so that's the hardest part because the writing for me just comes very naturally. The
Hmm.
first draft, the editing piece is also a little bit difficult. I would say the first edit is fun because you're seeing what you wrote, but then once you're on the sixth or seventh edit, you're like, I don't want to ever look at this thing again.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I think the hardest part is the marketing piece for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you because I'm the same way. I'm so introverted. I never like my face out there, but I was like, okay, if we're gonna do this, you're gonna have to put your face out there for your books.
Yeah.
So let's try to do something that can help you learn to get your face out there. So I created my Instagram page and then I obviously started following everybody. And then I was like, you know what? I've noticed, like you said, the world is always kind of a little bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So I feel like shining light onto creators that would take away from the mess and stuff, like you said, buy your book. But no, seriously, like that's what we have to do. Like you being able to have a podcast for me, that's like scaring me really bad, but because I don't like my face out there at all. But it's helping me. This is helping me a lot. So I agree with you on
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. And it's good to do, as you were saying, to kind of shine the light on the joyful piece of life. I mean, they
Yeah.
do say that is the best way to resist and fight back is to cultivate joy in your own
Yeah.
life and, bring that joy to others if you can. So
Yes.
that's important.
I agree completely, like you said. So the next question I have is, what has been the most rewarding aspect of being an indie author?
Oh my gosh, so unexpected. This part for me was really just connecting with all the other indie authors on Instagram. That was the biggest shock for me was I was so resistant to social media and getting on. But once I've met so many people and friends, people that I genuinely can call friends,
Yeah.
people that we obviously share this interest, of writing and of kind of spotlighting what's going on in the world through our fiction. So yeah, it's just been really the connections that I've made. It's been really cool. And then to also discover other indie authors and read their stuff and just like be like, wow, we are really good. Like,
Right.
indie authors are really good. Like there's nothing wrong with being an indie author. Um, so yeah,
Right.
just kind of championing that cause and discovering these other people as well as discovering more about my own writing. The more that you write, the better you get, and so that's been
Yes.
really really fun as well to putting myself out there. I have been forced to hone my craft, and make it better and better, and so that's been really fun.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Practice makes perfect, they say.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Now